For many years, Barbados has had a reputation for having excellent drinking water. Rigorous tests are done to ensure that the quality of our potable water is maintained.
The quality of Barbados water is assured through a systematic sampling and monitoring process. What constitutes good drinking water is water that is free of pathogenic or toxic materials. Basically, materials or constituents that can harm a person's health from drinking water. What we refer to are waterborne diseases or waterborne pathogens are the microbial constituents of water that can cause disease.
To ensure that water quality standards are met, several tests are conducted frequently. In Barbados, the chlorine standard used is between 0.2 and 0.5 parts per million.
The chlorine residual tests that we do are very important in terms of identifying risks in short time. What this involves is using an electronic piece of equipment that indicates to us whether the chlorine residual at the tap falls within the acceptable standard for safe drinking water. The officers follow different procedures according to the objectives. So for instance, there are samples that are taken without sterilizing or running the water first, and the purpose of that is to basically capture the quality of the water that exists within the faucet system of the pipe.
Mr. Daniel also explains other methods used.
The other sampling methodology that we employ involves the sanitizing of the faucet and the running of the water for approximately 60 seconds or a minute. And what this does is it gives us a better representation of what quality of water has been delivered to the premises from the source.
Having regular checks is vital.
Routine sampling is done on a weekly basis, and it covers 7 public health catchments throughout Barbados. In all, a minimum of 44 samples are delivered to the laboratory for analysis every week. As it relates to the South Coast itself, the methodology that is employed there is a risk assessment methodology, whereby the focus is on chlorine residual. And that is done on a weekly basis in addition to the taking of sampling.
The samples are then delivered to the Santos Public Health Lab, where they are immediately tested. This process is supervised by Laboratory Technologist Katrina Hart.
We use standard methods, and the standard methods that we use are checked twice a year via an external quality assurance. And when we get that assurance, it tells us the credibility of the technologist testing it and the standard tests that we're using. All our methods are based on international guidelines. ISO 17025 guidelines, and also the US EPA guidelines for drinking waters. And we also check standard methods for examination of waters and wastewaters.
Although the sampling and monitoring process is in place, Mr. Daniel has advice for homeowners.
So for instance, a household filter, if it is not maintained according to the manufacturer recommendation for changing or maintenance of a filter, the filter itself can become a source of contamination in that all of the residue or the contaminants that the filter is intended to remove, the filter then turns and becomes a source of delivery of these things. This also works as it relates to storage tanks. If a storage tank is not cleaned or sanitized according to the manufacturer recommendation in terms of its time, the tank itself can harbor microorganisms, and those then basically would compromise the chlorine that is within the supply, and therefore you can get a sample delivered to your delivered to your home that is not of potable acceptable standards.